So, hello everybody. I hope you're well today and thank you so much for joining us. So today's webinar, we are going through the basic getting started training of LifeQI. So we're going to have a look at the basic navigation of the platform, so how to kind of get around. We're then going to spend the majority of our time within the project space in LifeQI, where we'll look at creating a quality improvement project and then how to fill out the details of that project. So just a bit of housekeeping before we start. You are all muted, but if you have any questions, we do absolutely love questions, so feel free to pop them in the chat box or the Q&A. I've got my fabulous colleague Lewis on the line with me, and he'll be monitoring the questions as we go through, and we'll be able to give you any answers as well as any kind of helpful resources. And we'll also be stopping at logical points throughout the training in order to kind of go over any questions that come in. So I hope you find today helpful, and I will get started. Great, just checking that you can see my screen. Perfect. Okay, so first of all, for those of you that are really new to LifeQI, what is LifeQI? We are essentially an online quality improvement software where we bring the people, the tools, and the data together, and we help you run and track your improvement work across your organization. So as I mentioned, we're going to be starting with kind of the basic navigation of LifeQI, and then we're going to take a deep dive into the project space. So what you can see in front of you here is what we call the start page in LifeQI. So when you have signed up to the system and you've been verified by your organizational admin and you log in, you'll be greeted by your start page, which we can see in front of us. Now, this is unique to you. This is where you are able to access all of the areas that you are actively participating in on LifeQI. So let's have a quick look at what is on our start page. So we can see at the top here, we have our name and our job title. We have the ability to go to our profile on LifeQI. And if we go to our profile, this is where we can add in an About Us section. So we can add a profile picture, we can add our contact details, and any kind of blurb we want to add about us if we so wish. Up here on the top right-hand side of the page, we have your notification bell where any notifications will show. These might be notifications that you've been invited to join a project or that someone has accepted your request to join a specific area. We also have the little icon up here where you're able to access your profile through here as well, change your password as well as log out. Now scrolling down the screen, we're going to see a couple of other things. We kind of have a top level view of the things we're participating in here, so our projects and the people within our network. This is another area for any notifications to show. So you'll see here that I've got some requests and some invitations. Any project teams that we might be taking part of underneath a collaborative. All of our projects that we're either leading on or are a member of, you'll be able to access by clicking on them underneath the projects area here. Any programs, collaboratives, any discussions, dashboards, etc. So all of these on your start page are things that you are a member of and that you are participating in. So you can click on these and you can go through to any of those areas. Now, just scrolling back up to the top of my start page, we can see down here on the left-hand side of the page, our navigation bar. Now, this is another way that we can access the different areas of LifeQI. So we can get to the project section, the programs or collaboratives, any discussions, reports, dashboards, search for people, have a look at our organization, etc. Okay, so this is your main navigation bar down the left-hand side. Now we are going to spend the majority of the day looking at the projects. So without further ado, let's jump into the project space by clicking this project tab on the left-hand side navigation bar here. So when I click into the projects area, what we're going to see is a list of projects. Now, these projects will always filter by default to my active projects. So these are the projects that I'm currently active and that I am either leading on, so I have created, or ones that I have been invited to participate as a member. You're able to come down here and have a look at all of your projects and click on any of these to go through to them. Now, something else that we can actually do here is using these filters. If we tick my orgs projects and untick my projects, we actually have the ability to search for projects that are happening across our organization. So before you start a quality improvement project, you might want to search other projects happening within your organization to see if anyone else has done similar or if there's any kind of common themes of work. So you can tick that My Orgs projects, and then you can also search keywords in this bar here, okay? Now, this is also where we're going to create our quality improvement projects. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this Start a New Project button. That is then going to open up a setup wizard, which is going to guide me through the process of creating my quality improvement project. So once that setup wizard opens, this is the first page that you're going to see. And this is where we need to outline the purpose of our project. So you will notice that the title box is outlined in red. Now, this is because this is a mandatory field. We do have to fill in a title in order to progress with the creation and saving of our project. So we are going to do our project on learning life QI, okay? So we can then add in our problem statement. So what is the problem? That isn't a mandatory field, so you don't need to add that in now if you don't want to. We do always recommend doing as much detail as possible, but you can come back and add more detail later on, which I'll show you how to do. So once we've filled out the title and the problem, we can then jump on to the next page, which is asking what we are trying to accomplish. So what is our aim? As an example. Now, just to highlight, we do have tooltips located throughout the platform. So if you're unsure what should be within an aim statement or what to write in these specific areas, if you click on these I buttons here, that's going to open up some really useful tooltips. These tooltips are going to give you some good pointers on how to construct aim statements, some examples, and these are located on different points throughout the platform, so do keep an eye out and click on those if you do need some more information. Then our rationale, we would add in down here. On the next page, this is where we're going to build out who is on our project team. So who is participating on this project with us? Now, at this point, I would like to caveat and point out that some organizations do have their own specific governance workflows integrated into LifeQI. So if you are an organization that has that kind of governance integrated, this section might look slightly different to you. You may have some mandatory roles or some different areas that you have to add in, but this is kind of the generic way to add a project team if you don't have that governance integrated. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to invite any members that are participating with me. So by clicking this Invite New Members button at the top here, we can then search for users that we know are already on LifeQI. We can then click on their name once we found the correct person. We'll then be able to give them a role on our project as well as the correct level of permissions. So it might be that Jason is my improvement advisor on this project. And now I need him to have edit rights because I need him to be able to actively add things to my project. I need him to be able to add to my driver diagram. I need him to help me collect data. I need him to be able to run PDSAs. So he would need edit rights. It might be that Jason is my coach and he doesn't actually need to add anything to my project. He just needs to simply be able to view the details. So what I can do is I can untick edit and I can have just view ticked and then he can just see everything happening. Or it might be that Jason needs full admin rights on my project. So I want him to be able to add to different areas as well as delete areas of my project and invite further members to my project, okay? So once you've decided the correct role and permissions for that person to have, you simply click add and they will then show up in your pending members view. Now, in the same way that we can add users to a project, we can add groups or other organizations. So say, for example, you have your organizational structure set up in LifeQI where you may have divisions or service lines or directorates, and you need to link your project to the correct area of where you work. All of that organizational structure and that will be set up as groups in LifeQI. So what we can do, in the same way we've added JSON, we can add a group to our project. So let me show you an example. So by clicking Invite New Members here, I work in the children's division. So I can then search for my division, and I can then click that in exactly the same way that I did with JSON. I can say that this is my lead division, and I can then add that to my project. Okay. So once we've outlined the team members, we've given them the correct permissions, we then can move on to the next page. But before I do that, I just want to highlight this privacy element. So every project that's created in LifeQI will automatically default to the privacy levels of only members can view. That means that only direct members of the project can see that project. So LifeQI, people within LifeQI organization can see it, and other members are able to see that. If we did want to open up our project to the wider LifeQI community, we do have the ability to change that privacy level to everyone can view, okay? But it will always default to only members can view. So once we've done that, we jump onto the next page, and this is where we can categorize our project. So we can link any organizational priorities. We can also add tags, and I kind of think of tags as like a hashtag. It's a way to categorize your work, and also you can search for tags and you can report on tags as well. So if I want to link a priority, this will depend on whether you have any set up on your organizational profile page, but you can have a look. So I'm going to link it to my priority here, and that will then show up on my project. We can then add tags. So it might be that I want to tag this for one of the CQC domains, or it might be a strategic project, or I might just want to tag it with the theme of work that I'm doing. You can search for any tags within LifeQI. If you can't find one, you can create tags. And once you've got the relevant tag, you can just add that there by clicking on the correct one. Okay. Again, it's not mandatory to do the linking of priority or adding of tags, but the option is there. And I also recommend it is worth checking your governance process with kind of the quality improvement leads within your organization, because they may require you to link to a priority or a tag. So once we've done that, the last page, super simple, showing our start date and our end date. So we can click on those calendars, scroll through the dates and choose the correct end date. And then the location, it might be a specific ward as an example that we can add in there. Then once we've done that, we hit create project. And that is the setup process of our quality improvement project. Now, when that has saved, it will take us through to the general page of our LifeQI project, where we can start filling out the details. What I'm going to do while that's saving, sorry, I do apologize, I'm working from home today and my internet is rather slow, so if there's a bit of a delay, I do apologize. But while that's saving, I'm just going to check in with Lewis and see if we've had any questions around the setup process at all.
Thank you, Sophie. No, there's not been any questions at the moment.
Perfect, thank you. Great, so now we have gone through and done the creation of our project and we've saved it. We are taken to the general page of our project, which we can see here. You can see through our cookie crumbs, as I like to call them at the top, where we are within LifeQI. So we can see we're within the project section, the project title, then we're on our general page. We have our title at the top, the tabs to access the different areas of the project along here, what we call our glance bar along the top, which basically just gives us a quick top level overview of how far progressed our project is. So whether we have a driver diagram, how many measures and charts we have, etc. You'll also notice that we have some really helpful kind of pop-up guides, which kind of point you in the right direction of which areas you should complete next. If you want to get rid of these, just click the ignore button there. At the bottom detail section, this is where all the information that we've just outlined within that creation process is stored. And you will see that we have this edit option up here. So as I mentioned when we were creating our project, not all of the areas are mandatory, but if at a later date you do want to come in and put more detail around your problem or add in a rationale or change your aim, it's super simple to do. You can just click this edit button up here. You can change all of these details. You can add in service user involvement, as well as kind of update the status of your project if you need to. Now, one thing I want to point out on the glance bar before we go into the specific areas of our project is this project progress score here. So this project progress score is based on the IHI progress score scale. It's a scale of from 0.5 to 5.5 that goes up in 0.5 increments. And this is a way for you to dictate and show where you are within the life cycle of this project. So let's have a look at what I mean. So if I click on this change score button here, it's going to give us a list of all of the different score options on our project, as you can see, so 0.5 to 5.0. So it might be that we need to, as a project team, be updating this regularly. So we should be doing that as the project lead or as the project team. It is down to you to update this project progress score as you progress your project, okay? So when we come in, we're going to want to review where we are and we can then update our progress score. Now, if you're not familiar with what these scores relate to, don't worry. If you click on any of these here, it will give you the definition for each of those progress scores. So I might want to come in and change it and go, right, my planning for project has begun. So I've started it, but we're not actually testing any changes yet and we're not seeing any improvement, okay? So just bear in mind as you do your, as you kind of add more and start testing changes, just make sure that you're updating that progress score as well. Once we've got the correct score, you can just hit change score and that will then update on our glance bar here. You can now see that our progress score has updated. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a look at our driver diagram and how we can build out our driver diagram. So clicking into the driver diagram tab along the top there, you can see that we need to edit it to start adding our drivers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click my edit button on the top right-hand corner. We're then going to be able to build the driver diagram out. The aim will always be automatically pulled through from the details page. So if you update it on the details section, it will update on your driver diagram as well. So now from here, I'm going to start adding my primary drivers to start with. So I want to click that plus button and we're going to see that my first primary driver box has been added there. I can then click that cross again and we can see that I have another primary driver box and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can build out as many drivers as you need simply by clicking that plus button. Now it's the same for when we want to add on our secondary drivers. So here I can click the cross buttons on each of my relevant primary drivers. And you can then see that we're starting to build out our nice basic driver diagram. Now, it could be that some of these primary drivers have two secondary drivers linked to it. That's absolutely fine. What we can do is on this primary driver box here, we can just click the cross again. And you can now see that we have two secondaries linked there. Okay. In the same way we've done before, we can then add in our change ideas. Now, hopefully you can see that this is nice and simple and no more kind of faffing around in PowerPoint trying to get all of the boxes to align and be the same size. We simply just click that cross button there. Now, once we've done our driver diagram, we can hit save and that is our driver diagram complete and we can see it here, okay? Through this actions button, we can export our driver diagram if we want to. But the other thing we can do is we can actually color code our driver diagram. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I am a super visual learner. So I really like to be able to kind of see at a quick glance what's happening within my driver diagram. So what we can do is if we come back into edit mode, we can start to color code. So the first thing I need to do when in edit mode is scroll down to the bottom of my page and hit this manage colors button. From here, I can choose my colors and add in a label. So let's choose our colors. There is no right or wrong. It's completely up to you how you label them. For learning purposes, I'm just going to do it really easily and just label them as primary drivers, secondary drivers, and change IDs. Okay. So now we've chosen our colors and given them a label, we click that done button. We're then going to see our nice key at the bottom. We can then start to go through and color code. So by clicking that choose a color button, we're going to be given the options that we've just outlined, and we can then color code our driver diagram. And hopefully you can see that it's starting to get nice and visual, a bit easier to read and to navigate through that driver diagram. And now we've done that, we can hit save. We'll then be able to see our color-coded driver diagram as so, with our key laid out at the bottom for us. Okay. We can also expand our driver diagram if we want to and see it in a slightly bigger view. And we can also look at the history of it. So if we want to see the different iterations of driver diagram we have created, we can hit the history button and then look through the different kind of changes we've made within our driver diagram. So the next section we're going to look at is we're going to have a look at the measures and charts section. But before I do that, I'm just going to check in and see if there's been any questions at all on the driver diagrams or anything you'd like me to go over.
Hi, Soph. No questions so far.
Perfect, thank you. I always also use it as an excuse to have a swig of my tea. I do apologise.
Stay hydrated.
Brilliant. So we're now going to have a look at our measures and charts section. So the first thing we're going to do is build out a measure. So this section is where we're going to add in and be capturing our data on an ongoing basis, okay? But before we can actually build our charts and enter that data, we need to outline what it is we are measuring. So the first thing to do is actually create a new measure. And to do that, we click on this new measure button here. In the same way that we had that pop-out kind of setup wizard for creating our project, we're going to have that for creating our measure, as you can see on the screen. So this is going to guide us through the different bits of detail that we need to fill in order to create our measure. So first of all, what is this measure? We need to describe it. So say, for example, we were doing a quality improvement project on reducing pressure sores. And we are now outlining kind of our main measure. It might be that I want to just be recording the number of pressure sores, okay? And then we need to kind of outline what measure type it is. So is this our outcome measure? Are they process measures? Are they balance measures? So this one would be my outcome measure. Now, just to kind of highlight again these tooltips, if you're not sure what measure type it would be, please do click on those tooltips and it will give you an explanation of what each of those are. Then we need to outline our operational definition. So in quantifiable terms, what is it that we are measuring, okay? Now on to the next page, our data collection plan. So what data are we collecting? How are we collecting it? Who is collecting? And when are we collecting? Okay. And then the last couple of things on this page is choosing our chart type and our data collection frequency. Now, these are the most important steps when setting up a measure. because once we've created this measure, these are the two areas that we are unable to change, okay? Everything else we're doing, we can update, we can edit, we can change, but our chart type and our data collection frequency, we are unable to update or change those once we have saved that measure. So the first thing we need to think about is what chart type are we using? What chart type do we need to be using to best record our data? If you don't know, we have this kind of need help choosing a chart option here. If you click on that, that's going to give you an overview of all of the different types of charts we have. So we have control charts as well as a run chart. You can click on all of these different chart types. It will give you typical examples of how they're used, the types of data to capture, as well as an overview of what that chart actually is, okay? So we can go through these and we can have a look and see which one is the most relevant for our data. It does default to run chart, so you can always leave it on a run chart, but do have a look at this and see kind of which chart would be most relevant. Now I can see here on a C chart that this is used to display counts of things. So I'm obviously looking at the number of pressure sores, and I can see here, great, perfect example, it fits in with my number of pressure sores. So I want to use a C chart. So I'm then going to click that use C chart button. It's going to choose that option for me. We then determine our data collection frequency. So how often will we be entering this data into LifeQI? Is it weekly, quarterly, monthly, daily? So for this example, we're going to do this as a monthly data collection. Now on to the next page is, do we need to link it to any drivers? So as this is my outcome measure, this is going to link to my overarching aim. So I can then add that, although I know it's about lowering LifeQI, but let's pretend it's about pressure sores. But this would link to my overarching aim, or you can link it to any of your other drivers that you've set out in that driver diagram. Once we've done all of that, we simply click Create Measure. That's then going to redirect us to our measurement page where we can start adding in our data. So as you can see now, we are in our number of pressure sores outcome measure. Just to highlight again, the cookie crumbs along the top so we can kind of see where we are. We're within projects, which project, our measures and charts section, and then the specific measure we're in. We can also see here the title of our measure and the measure type we've given it. Then along the top, we have two tabs. One is where we're going to add our chart, and the other is the Plan tab. Now, this is the area where we can see all of the details that we've just entered. So if we want, we can come in and change any of the title, operational definition, collection plan, and measure type. But as I mentioned, we're unable to change the chart or the data collection frequency. Now, this is also a really important area if you are participating on a project, but you haven't created those measures yourselves, okay? So you can come in, you can read the plan of the measures, you can really understand what data needs to be entered into this specific chart. So jumping back to my charts tab, we're now going to have a look at the different ways that we can add data. So the first thing to do is create a chart by adding a new chart here. We can then add in a title to our chart. We then have the ability to either manually add in our data or copy and paste that from an Excel. So let's first of all look at the manual data entry. First thing you need to do is click on Add a Row. We then dictate the month. So we add in the month and we add in our count. So how many instances or patients with pressure sores did we find? Then we add another row and we'll see it automatically populates the next month. We can then add in our next number. And then we keep going through that process until we've added in all of the data that we need to, okay? So I might be starting with 4 data points. I can then hit my Create Chart. You can now see that we've got our chart here with our nice spark line, nice little friendly reminder telling us data's overdue. If I click on that, we can now see that LifeQI has automatically created my C chart for me, my chart for me here. I've got my data table at the bottom and my chart up the top here, okay? Now it might be that we have baseline data on a Excel that we want to copy and paste over. So let's have a look at how we do that when we're creating our charts. So in the same way as I did before, I'm going to add a chart here. I can then give it a title. We're then going to, in the same way, click Add a Row, but I'm going to leave that blank, okay? What I'm then going to do is I'm going to come over to my Excel where my baseline data has been captured. I'm then going to highlight my baseline data, if I can, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy that data. Now, what you will notice that my Excel is in the same format that LifeQI is expecting, okay? So LifeQI is expecting a time period as well as a count. So this will copy over nicely. If I had my Excel where I had a count and a total and I tried to copy that over, it wouldn't go because it's not the format that LifeQI is expecting. So we just need to make sure that the kind of baseline data within Excel marries up to the format that we're expecting in LifeQI. But once I have copied that data, I can come back to LifeQI and I can right click in this empty time period box and I can hit paste. That's then going to super quickly bring over all of that data for me here. I can then hit create chart and hey presto, we have our second chart with all of our previous baseline data in it. If I click on that Ward B one, we can now see our detailed chart with that baseline data. You will notice that LifeQI will highlight any special cause variation for you. So any trends or shifts within your data, any outliers that you may have, or as we can see here, any kind of high or low variation within that data. So that will, all the special cause variation will be automatically highlighted at the top of the chart, as you can see here. Okay. So that's how we add data when we first create a chart. Now, if we need to come back in next month and add more data, we would navigate to our measures and charts section and to our relevant measure. We would then click on the chart that we need to add data for. We would hit the edit button here. We would scroll down, hit add a row, and then add in our next data point. Once we've done that, we hit redraw chart and it's been added to our chart. Okay. So just two other things that I want to show you on a chart. First thing is when we're in edit mode, and if we click on a data point, we have the ability to annotate our chart. Okay, so we can just click on any specific data point and add in an annotation or a note. To save it, just click off that page there, and we can then see that it's highlighted here. Okay. We do have the ability to link PDSAs to our specific data points as well, but obviously we need to create those PDSAs first, so that's why I don't have any available to me at the moment. Now, the other thing we can do is through this Actions button, we can export an image of our chart. So if we wanted to share this chart with people outside of LifeQI or put it into a PowerPoint presentation or whatever it might be, you can absolutely export that image and use it how you want to. And you can also download the data sheet. So if you want to pull off all of the raw data that you have within your chart, you can absolutely do that by clicking the export data sheet, and that will then save to a CSV format for you. Okay. Perfect. So hopefully that made sense and was helpful in regards to kind of creating those measures and creating those charts. Now, the last section that I'm going to really kind of show you in detail is the PDSA section, okay? We're going to have a look at how to create our PDSA and then also the template, the format of a PDSA in LifeQI. I am going to stop here really quickly and just see if there have been any questions around the measures and charts that you would like me to go over at all.
Thanks, Soph. No questions so far.
Perfect. I hope that means that it's all making sense. But I do often find that in kind of these webinars or these training sessions that sometimes the questions don't come until when you're actually in the system. And that is equally absolutely fine. And we do have resources in place to kind of help you. So what I'm going to do at the end of the session is I will show you how you can reach us and how we can kind of support you and answer any questions that you may have. So we'll go over that after we've looked at the PDSAs. So the next section, as I've mentioned, is the PDSA area. So clicking on here, we're now within our PDSA section, and this is where we can build out our PDSA ramps. In the same way that we did with creating a measure, the first thing we need to do is create our PDSA ramp. So to do that, we're going to click this new PDSA ramp here. We're then going to go through the process of outlining what we're doing within our PDSA. So what is the purpose of this PDSA? This might be, let's thinking about the pressure sores kind of improvement project example. This might be get patients out of bed 3 times a day, as an example, okay? What are we hoping to achieve with this purpose? So what is the aim of this PDSA? And then we have the ability to link this to our change ideas. So what you're going to notice when you're kind of building out your projects is we're going to be able to get that kind of holistic and overarching view of our project. What is interlinked? What is affecting what? Okay. So what we can do here is say, right, well, this is linked to this change idea. That's then going to show on your driver diagram as well as on your PDSA. Okay. So on to the next page, who's responsible? Is this me? Or is it someone else on my project team that's on Life QI that's going to be leading on this PDSA? When is it taking place? When are we starting that? And where, again, is it a specific ward, a specific location within your organization? On to the next page, what is our plan? My live typing really sometimes is not great. Sorry about that. But so what is our plan? What are we going to be doing? We also have the ability to build out a task list in Life QI within the PDSAs if we want to, so we can kind of track and review different things that need to happen in order to, it can be for the project as a whole or just in relation to this PDSA. So by clicking this add a task button, you can outline tasks, assign them to people and pop on a due date as well. On to the next page, what is our prediction? And then do we need to link this to a measure? So what do we want this to be affecting? Then link measure there. And then click create PDSA cycle. So once we have done that, it will take us through to our PDSA. This is kind of how a PDSA is formatted in Life QI. We have the 2 tabs along the top. We have your task area where you can kind of track the progress of your tasks. You can tick them off. You can add more tasks. Then within this PDSA tab, this is where you'll see the details of your PDSA. So the top section is your plan. What the title is, what you're hoping to achieve, what change idea it's linked to, what the plan of action is. So that the whole top section is your plan. We then can see any link measures underneath. And if we need to, we can remove them and link other measures. And then the bottom bit, the do study act element. So this is where we would detail what happened, how did it compare to our prediction, and what are we going to do next? Are we going to adapt it? Are we going to adopt it? Are we going to abandon it? Or whatever that plan might be. So in order to add those details, just click the edit button and you can see you can change all of this, but you can then add in your what happened, how did it compare, and what is next. Okay. Once you've completed those, that is then your kind of finished PDSA cycle. And it might be that when we're thinking about kind of what we're going to do next, we do want to adapt this PDSA cycle. We kind of want to run it again, but slightly change it. So do another iteration of it because we saw great results, but we think by getting patients out of bed 4 times a day is actually going to give us even better results and even more improvement. So what we can do in Life QI is we can ramp PDSAs. And what I mean by that is down the bottom, we can create a new cycle. Okay. So we can then go through the same process, say, right, but this time I want to get my patients out of bed 4 times a day. We go through the same process, kind of changing any like predictions, any notes, whatever it might be. We then create that again. And what we're then going to see is that we are now currently on cycle 2 out of 2. So we've effectively ramped our PDSA. We've run a different iteration of it, but we're housing it within one place. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But we can then go through and run as many cycles as we want on any one PDSA. So if I just come back to the PDSA list, it will show you kind of what I mean here. So we can now see that I have my one PDSA ramp, which is linked to this change idea, but we have 2 cycles within it. We can see through these graphics, I have one completed cycle and one cycle that I just have the plan element done because the others are kind of grayed out, okay? So there's no limit to how many individual PDSAs you run within LifeQI, and there's also no limit to how many times you ramp that, how many cycles of a PDSA you run within LifeQI. Great. So they are the main components of your project in LifeQI. So just coming back to this general page here, we can now see it's come to life a bit, which is great. We can see in our glance bar that we've got a driver diagram there. We've got 2 charts and a measure, and we've got a couple of PDSAs. A couple of other things just to highlight. On the right-hand side of the page over here, this is what we call your members panel, okay? Now, if you need to add any further members or remove members from your project, you can do that through here. To add new members, you simply click invite new members and then you search for their name here if they're already a member of LifeQI. Or if you want to add someone that's not on LifeQI, you click this can't find someone button here and you can send them an email with a link to sign up to LifeQI and also access your project. If you are the lead user, the admin of that project, it might be that Jason has now left and he's no longer my relevant coach and I need to remove him. You have the ability to do that by clicking on their names, clicking that down arrow and removing membership here, okay? So you can kind of keep that membership up to date there. Now, the other thing is the document area where you can upload files and folders, and also the megaphone icon where you can post updates to the project team and you can attach files and send that and notify all of the members within your project. So a lot to cover today. I understand that's a lot to go over in 45 minutes, but as I mentioned kind of earlier, we absolutely are here to support you. And I know right now there may not be that many questions, but when you go in there and you start to build out your project, you might go, oh, actually, I can't remember what was covered in that training. So we do have lots of resources to kind of guide you through your process and also hopefully help answer any questions that may come up. So the first thing to point out is at the top of the page, every page in LifeQI, you'll see this Get Help With link. If I click that, that's going to take me through to LifeQI's Help Center and to the relevant area. Within this area, it's going to show you all of the things that you may need to know. So how to start a new project, how to invite your team to a project. So within our Help Center, we have help articles covering every aspect of LifeQI. So if I just click on this main Help Center button here, we can then see all the different sections. It might be that I can't remember how to add my chart. I can come into the measures and charts section. I can then look at creating a chart. And then all of these help articles have tutorial videos or short kind of graphics to show you what to do, as well as step-by-step instructions, okay? You can also search for answers up here. So you can absolutely search for like a question or an answer and it will direct you to the relevant help article. So do take advantage of these help articles because they are really, really useful. But we also have an absolutely fantastic kind of help desk team. Now, I may be biased, but they truly are brilliant. They are on hand to kind of help you with any technical difficulties you may have, and also just any general questions that you may be struggling with in LifeQI. You can reach them via email, which Lewis will pop in the chat for you, or you can also reach them via our live chat option. So on every page in LifeQI, you'll see this blue speech bubble down here. From here, you can search the help articles, you can create a ticket, you can also live chat. That will go through to our help desk team who will be on hand to answer any questions and kind of point you in the right direction and give you advice where you're needed. So please do take advantage of those resources as and when any questions come up. But I have spoken at you all for 45 minutes now, so we are out of time. But I do hope that that has been useful and a good introduction to LifeQI. As I mentioned, please reach out to us with any questions or any concerns that you may have, and we'll be more than happy to help. But thank you so much for joining. I do hope it's been helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and weekend when it arrives. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks all.